Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for participating in today's event. Gaurav, maybe if you can give me a quick heads up that my audio and video are working fine, that would be great.
Yes, Shubin, we can hear you and we can see you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gaurav. So a warm welcome to all of you. A very good afternoon to everyone who is participating from Europe, and also welcome to everyone who is participating outside of Europe. So today's event focuses on the the topic of startups and the success stories. I'll just like to take you through some of the quick introduction. This is part of the German Indian Business Forum, or GIBF, and we refer it to as German Indian Startup Connector. This year, unfortunately, all the events are happening online, and we are following it up with a series of events where we are taking up success stories, also investor sessions, and having a lot of conversations with people who are the decision makers. It's supposed the founding partners for the German Indian Business Forum are GIZ. It's a German Indian Association based out of Munich, the Embassy of India in Berlin, and Consulate General of India in Munich, Invest in Bavaria, and the city of Munich. So today's topic is smart logistics and mobility. I think logistics and mobility define the quality of life. In today's time, they refer to a new meaning, or they are gaining new meaning. And we are here to understand how it would shape up in next few months or in next few years. And only if we talk to, or if we have conversation with startups, I think we would be able to understand it better. So just to quickly introduce myself, I'm the Chief Coordinator. My name is Jubin. I'm the Chief Coordinator for the German Indian Startup Connector event. Many of you might know because I coordinate with a lot of startup events. And I also consult startups, but mainly in healthcare. Not to waste much time, so I would also like to introduce you to all the speakers and the panelists today. So we'll be having two success stories today. One from Florian, who is the co-founder at Smart Lane, Swapnil, who is co-founder at Ather. Then we'll have a panel discussion which will include Arunima, who is head of Impact Accelerator at Unis Social Business. And we'll also have participation from Navratnan, who is director for startups at NASCOM. I thank all of them for taking out their time and for this event. And I'm really looking forward to the conversation. So the event would be from 1 to 2 o'clock, so it would be 1 hour. Okay, so just to repeat the agenda, or to go over the agenda, we'll have the first success story by Swapnil, then followed up, it would be a 15-minute talk, followed up with a success story from Florian from Smart Lane, followed by a panel discussion, which will include also Arunima and Navratan. We'll then have finally the closing remarks and the end of event by 2 o'clock locally. Okay, about today's event, so please note that the webinar will be recorded. Kindly keep your audio at the mute. If you have questions, use the Q&A panel. The moderator, I'll be addressing the questions and I'll be taking it to the presenters at the end of the session. If there are any technical issues, please use the chat panel with your issue. You can activate panels using the corresponding buttons in the WebEx panel. Otherwise, please try to contact us. If you would like to use two screens for video presentation, please switch to the cascaded Windows mode. You can use the Q&A panel for questions. If you have to send it to the presenters, you can refer to the slide where you have these 3 dots, and following to that, you can send the questions. For the audio, if you're joining to the audio, please use the Communicate tab in the WebEx menu and call using computer. You can see only audio connection option, and it should be pretty straightforward. Please make sure that your speakers are not muted and the audio settings are correct. So with that, I would not waste much time, and I would like to invite Swapnil, who is the co-founder at Ather Energy. So it was founded in 2013. If I'm not wrong, Swapnil is an engineer with his background, but now getting into entrepreneur mode. So it would be very interesting to hear what success really means in the current times, and how they are taking it further in the next few months. Over to you, Swapnil. Thanks a lot for taking out time today.
It's been a pleasure to be here, and thanks for the opportunity. I'll present my slides. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I have made you the presenter, so you please go ahead and present your slides.
Yeah. I believe it's visible, right?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Great. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Swapnil, and I'm a founder of Ather Energy. We are a startup in the field of mobility. We started as to begin with, we started as an electric vehicle company, and then we have sort of at the early days it was more about just building batteries, and then we sort of slowly realized that the sort of vehicles which are available in the market, in the Indian market, were not really up to the mark, and then we moved from batteries to vehicles, and then we also realized that the mobility is not just becoming electric, but it's also becoming connected. So we moved from electric vehicles to smart connected electric vehicles. So I'll go through a brief story of what Ather's journey has been. It was founded in 2013. Two of us. Since 2013, our agenda has been on developing the electric vehicles for Indian market, which would not just be an electric vehicle, but which would be a rival to a petrol vehicle, and in every sense of performance and ownership. Brief about our funding. We've had three major rounds of funding from three major funders from Hero MotoCorp, one of the largest two-wheeler manufacturer in the world, Tiger Global, and entrepreneurs such as Benny Benzel. Our product portfolio is primarily around the fast electric scooters. While we started building the vehicles, we also realized the charging infrastructure is something which is quite critical, so we developed our own charging infrastructure. We started with 2 markets, Bangalore and Chennai, and then we're sort of expanding to about 10 markets by the end of the year. We have a big patent portfolio, primarily because we have spent a lot of time developing the technology which goes into our vehicle, and we have, with the first product which we have in market, we have done some immense number of kilometers and on the road. So I'll give a brief background on what is how did the Indian electric vehicle industry look like, and how it has evolved in the past about 10 years. In 2012, it was actually in a fair amount of peak, primarily because there was a lot of government subsidy, and there were a lot of new vehicles which were there in the Indian market. In 2012, the subsidy got withdrawn. At the same time, people realized that the vehicles which were actually there in the market, after 6 to 8 months time frame, they were losing out on their performance. The quality was poor, and most of it was not really making much sense for the individual. So if you could see, until 2013-14, it has been a steep drop on the electric vehicles. This is the time frame where we sort of launched in 2013 in the Indian market. After 2014, in 2015 is when a new subsidy scheme was launched by the Indian government, and after that it has been a steep rise in the adoption of electric vehicles. So while we were in 2013, we were looking at the launch of, or looking at the Indian market, one thing is what we realized is that the biggest reason why electric vehicles were not having great adoption was also because the quality of the vehicles were really poor, and there was no technical know-how on the companies who were selling them about the vehicles, and that was the biggest problem why customers were not willing to really buy electric vehicles. After, as soon as the subsidy was withdrawn, people stopped buying the electric vehicles. So with this in mind, we were very clear what is it that we really want to build. We said that the vehicles which we will build, it will be everything will be focused on customer. It is not because it is an electric vehicle. There's no compromise going to be because it's an electric vehicle. It is all going to be about the end customer, and the performance which a customer gets is going to be the same. It doesn't really matter whether it's electric or petrol. So very strong focus on ensuring that the end customer is really happy with the kind of vehicle they get, which meant that we would be designing a lot of things from scratch, because most of the technology which we needed didn't really exist in the market. While we were doing that, we also needed to change the image of the electric vehicles, because it was almost a stigma that most people were not willing to buy an electric vehicle, and the whole outlook towards electric vehicle had to be changed for the electric vehicles to really start making sense in the market. And last, it was also important for us to change the ownership experience, because not just because of electric, but overall automotive industry is evolving, and there is a lot of improvement which we can provide to the end customer in terms of ownership, not just of the owning the vehicle, but starting from how you purchase the vehicle, how do you take a test ride, to your interaction with the organization, or interaction during service, during maintenance. The complete journey of the vehicle is something which is important, and that's the complete ownership experience which we wanted to optimize for. We have two products in the market, the Ather 450 and the 450X. The 450 is the first product which we launched, and the 450X is the second product which we'll be launching around this October. Both of them, the 450 was the fastest electric vehicle in the Indian market, and with 450X is just beating the 450 in terms of everything about performance. So one of the biggest things which most of us would know about electric vehicles is that they're not really very interesting to ride, and that's because the top speed is low. They can't carry more than one person on the vehicle, and especially India being a very heavy two-wheeler market, it was important that the vehicle really met all the performance requirements which comes from any other two-wheeler in the market. So let's look at how we sort of worked on the performance aspect of the vehicle. The first three are the best-selling petrol vehicles in the Indian market, and talking about the acceleration of 0 to 40. Ather 450X beats all the petrol vehicles out there in the market. On a top speed perspective, 450X matches the performance of every other vehicle in the market. The idea was very clear that what matters in the city the most is the 0 to 40, and because that's what really determines how fast you are able to get off the signal. And in the start-stop conditions, the 0 to 40 speed is the timing is the most critical. And that's what we really focused on by ensuring that the top speed performance is same as the other vehicles in the market. Some other features about the vehicle: the range of 85 kilometers, which is essentially what you really get in the traffic condition. 21 degrees gradability. Most electric vehicles struggle to give this sort of a gradability, and India has a lot of places where the gradability is quite high, and hence 21 degrees gradability is what we are able to deliver. Top speed of 80 km/h, again an important parameter. Along with that, we are focused on aspects which will differentiate this vehicle from every other vehicle in the market. So there is one thing which is performance, which is where you have to really match the status quo in the industry, or the benchmark in the industry. But you need to do something really. If you're a startup and you're trying to sell a new product in the market, you need to go beyond what is there in the industry, and that's where the rest of the things which we're talking about, which is the connected vehicle, came into picture. We started with having a 7-inch touchscreen dashboard on the vehicle to completely revamp how the user interface and the user experience would be. Then we brought in onboard navigation. Once we had a 7-inch touchscreen, we brought in onboard navigation. We brought in park assist to ensure that if you're navigating through a tight spot, you can go forward and reverse on the vehicle, ensuring a good park assist. We obviously introduced 4G connectivity on the vehicle to introduce a lot of these smart features. Bluetooth, again, for interaction with your phone and other smart devices, which could be a helmet, which could be a tire pressure management system, monitoring system, any of those. And finally, allowing ODR upgrade. This is the most important thing in the vehicle, because this would mean that the vehicle is no more the vehicle which you bought on day one, but it's something which keeps evolving every single day. Every new upgrade which we do on the vehicle adds more feature on the vehicle, and this is the most important change in the user experience which you want to bring in with the 450 and 450X. So let's talk about the connected and intelligent vehicles, which is something which is really changing in the automotive industry. Let's look at how does it affect the vehicle itself. The amount of electronics in the vehicle really increases a lot. What it means is that you have multiple components on the vehicle which are now smart, which have the brain of their own, which can actually be tuned as and when scenarios change, as and when new features are to be introduced. All the electronics units on the vehicle, they can be modified and upgraded over a period of time. And that means that the vehicle becomes primarily electronic and software than being primarily mechanical. And this sort of control gives a lot of flexibility on what you can do with the vehicle in the field. Let's look at what are the few things which the three key aspects which we really achieve from building a connected vehicle. First is what you call it as just a connect, which means that you know everything about the vehicle. You know what is the state of the charge of the vehicle. You know what is the top speed of the vehicle. You know if there are any anomalies on the vehicle which would lead to a failure of a particular component, leading to preventive maintenance. And you have a complete two-way communication with the vehicle, giving you a good idea about how your vehicles are performing in the field. Second is control, and this is again a unique capability which we have on our vehicle. The hardware remains the same, but the vehicle comes with two different modes which you can unlock based on a subscription model. In 450X, you have 0 to 40 in 3.3 seconds. But if you think that you don't really need that kind of a performance, then you can opt for a 450 plus, which is 0 to 40 in 3.9 seconds. Similarly, other aspects like range, peak power, torque, all of these, with a click of a button on your phone, you could actually go from one vehicle to another without really touching the hardware. Hardware remains the same, but based on your expectation, the vehicle can be adopted to a particular specification, and you will be charged monthly basis based on those sort of based on which kind of plan you really choose. This makes a big innovation in the ownership of the vehicle. Now you are owning two vehicles, and a click of a button, you can switch between one vehicle on the other. Based on your requirement, you can switch between one vehicle or the other. And this kind of a control is really possible because the vehicle is connected and it is smart. Third aspect is being able to analyze. So understanding the trends of how the vehicle is being used, what kind of a range you are getting. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. We'll have 1 more minute for your presentation. So maybe if you can quickly wrap up the presentation.
Sure. Yeah. So again, the analyze aspect of the vehicle, you can understand the aspects of how the vehicle is being used in the field. Along with that is obviously the complete ecosystem which comes around the vehicle. The changing the ownership experience as a whole, how you buy a vehicle instead of having just going and taking a test ride, having a complete ownership experience where you are able to understand the technicalities of the vehicle, what goes inside the vehicle. A quick idea about the market response. We opened pre-orders in January in 50 plus cities. We've chosen to start in 10 cities with dealership and deliveries sort of beginning in Q4 of 2020. It's a grid, which is again what we spoke about, the charging infrastructure. It goes around in 39 locations and it's open for all the electric vehicles. These are various locations where the electric grid, Ather grid is installed. Yeah. So eventually, this is the scale-up plan from 30 cities, new products, 200 locations, and coming up with a new factory. This is the growth plan for Ather.
Thanks a lot, Swapnil. We'll take maybe one question right now. Maybe if you can quickly point out or quickly answer about what kind of cybersecurity aspects are considered in the hardware and software design, considering that it has over-the-air update feature.
Okay. Yeah. So the multiple level of security. Firstly, is something on the hardware front itself. How do you embed security certificates in the hardware itself to ensure only secure connections can be established and communication can be done through the vehicle. Again, access controls to ensure that only a few people within the organization have access. Creating anonymized data. Most of the data is anonymized, and you create two different data sets. One is which corresponds to the vehicle, second which corresponds to the customer, and only limited people in the organization have access to be able to connect the vehicle data to the consumer data. Otherwise, they're two different, completely independent data sets which resides in the system. So yeah, yeah, you're saying, Jeevan?
Yeah, I think maybe if we can also go a bit more during the discussion in that direction probably. So because that's also something of interest from the participants. For now, maybe we can go to the next presentation and we'll come back to some of these questions in the discussion. Thanks a lot, Swapnil.
Sure. Thanks. Thank you.
So the next presentation is from Florian. Swapnil, I would also request you to make Florian the presenter so that he can share his presentation.
Florian is now the presenter.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
He's there already. Thanks, Gaurav.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you see my presentation?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, maybe I'll just share it again. Is it visible right now?
Yeah.
Okay, is it visible full screen?
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So, yeah, thank you, Shubin, and thank you, Swapnil. Again, my name is Florian Schiemandl. I'm the co-founder and managing director of Smart Lane. At Smart Lane, I'm responsible for a department or an area which is called customer success, with a very technical focus. On my side, my background is computer science. So yeah, so you know me right now. With Smart Lane, we developed something we call the transport intelligence. I switch to the next slide, maybe. Yeah, and the transport intelligence.
Florian, sorry to interrupt, but right now we are seeing the presenter view. Maybe if you can switch the screen and make it full screen.
Can you see it right now?
I'm not. Yes. Yeah. Perfect. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Perfect. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, great. So we are offering something we call the transport intelligence at Smart Lane. And with this transport intelligence, we are setting new standards in worldwide transport optimization using artificial intelligence. Currently, we are operating in the DACH region, which we call it Germany, Austria, and Switzerland mainly, where our customers come from. But many of our customers are operating worldwide. So we are used on a worldwide scale for transportation companies. So companies that have own vehicle fleets or managing vehicle fleets for doing transport on the road mainly. That's our focus. So with the, I need to change the slides here. Yeah. One main term you need to know, maybe you're not that fond or familiar with terms in logistics, is dispatching. And that's the one thing we are optimizing, we are building up in software. So dispatching is the assigning of resources as vehicles, as personnel, or as load of trucks and so on to the tasks that need to be done, deliveries, pickups, and whatever you may imagine that happens on the road and that happens in the logistics business. These dispatching processes are heavily reliant on experienced personnel, on experienced employees, They are often used old school tools or tools that are not fitted to a special purpose, as using Excel sheets, using Google Maps for routing and so on. And in these companies, oftentimes legacy software is used, the telephone for calling drivers and so on. And all these things we are addressing with our tool, because these things put together lead to long dispatching times in stressful situations as well. I get to this later on. It leads to unoptimized tours or routes. You oftentimes have in these companies a lack of skilled workers, and so you're in the end wasting a lot of potential that's in the logistics processes, which we are trying to leverage with our software. What is our software like? We have a cloud-based software as a service solution, which uses a so-called scenario-based analysis. So we are able to simulate scenarios, thousands and millions of scenarios based on certain parameters used in operation by these transport companies to get the best results they could imagine, taking into account different data sources, taking into account operational processes in these companies, and also learning from the people, from the employees using that software, and learning from the things that happen in the field. So we can quickly adapt to operational needs with our software without any big delay on that. And so we are able to react very fast to changing needs. There's also something maybe which we will talk about later on in the panel when it comes to COVID-19 issues and so on. So what we are offering with our software is mainly 4 parts. We have the transport mining part, which is mainly the planning, the calculation of the scenarios, identification of best scenarios that fit the transportation needs, which truck needs to do which customer and so on. Then we have the dispatching process, so putting all these theoretical planning things into operation, send them out to the drivers, putting them into these legacy systems or in the systems that are available at our customers in addition. And then we are able at a third part to integrate real-time operations, getting data from vehicles, from operational things in the field into our system, and then adapting the planning. So replan things, calculating EDAs, estimated times of arrival, and based on that, maybe changing something in the plan to adapt always to the best fitted things in the field. And in the end, of course, we can do analytics. That's something we do in this whole process chain as well. But we can do analytics that also can be fitted again into the planning, maybe for the next days, for the next month, whatever is useful for our customers here. As I said, we have a system that can integrate into other systems, can also be used as a standalone thing here. We can integrate into ERP systems, or as in logistics, they're called TMSs, Transport Management Systems. The orange part here in the presentation shows our part, so the dispatching, the transport process, monitoring, the process analysis. What we're not doing the invoicing in the end, maybe with subcontractors, with customers, and so on. That's something the customers do by themselves, by their own tools, and also the thing that the orders, the tasks that need to be done come in via a call center or, I don't know, via additional software maybe. They need to be handled somewhere else, put into our system. We offer a service for optimizing all the things together with the resources, and then getting out the results on the streets, and then the rest is a task for the company itself. So what's the kind of magic sauce of our system here? Always when you do optimization, you have the problem that you only find, or oftentimes find, local optima or local minima in processes. With our software, it's possible to always find the global optimum of a planning of a day. If you have maybe thousands of vehicles available and thousands of orders available, 100 vehicles, we always assign the best way. And how do we do that? Normally, you take your parameters and you're just setting the parameters, simulating, get a result, and so on. With our software, it's possible to do a smaller sampling and to sample every single scenario that could be realized in an operational context. And so we are simulating many scenarios. I already told you that we're about thousands or millions of scenarios that can be simulated to get out the best results. And so we are finding, or we are able to find, the global optimum of the whole process to be able to provide always the best results to our customers that could be calculated somehow. So I was talking about parameters. What are these parameters? Parameters may be truck sizes, the vehicle fleet size, it's real-time traffic data information that's available on a worldwide scale. We have legislational issues like resting periods for drivers. We have multi-shift possibilities, maybe drivers that come back to a depot, go again, and so on. We have delivery windows, time windows that are set up by the customers of our customers, and we have optimization goals. Maybe we can optimize based on a CO2 footprint, we can optimize based on service quality, we can optimize based on cost, and many additional parameters which we can take into account for the optimization, and which results in the end in a 100% automated dispatching. So in the beginning, when working together with customers, we are able to, maybe to support existing dispatchers with their on their daily needs, with routine tasks and so on. But in the long term, we are able to, maybe completely substitute these dispatchers in the companies by using our AI-based software. With this, we are realizing also cost savings of up to 40% in these companies by saving vehicles needed for realizing the operations. We are saving kilometers, of course, CO2 and so on. And we are able to generate a level of 100% of transparency. So all the processes we are covering with our software are visible, are measurable within our system, and can be analyzed or used by the management of the companies, by the dispatcher itself, to plan things differently on the next day, for example. And of course, with the CO2 emissions, tire wear reduction, and so on, these are some side effects we have on the plannings. One of our advisors, customers, SmartLane, says that SmartLane enables the big gross margin improvement in transportation processes he's ever seen, and he's a very experienced guy in that area. So we are always delivering the best results, better than the dispatchers itself, because we can take much more data into account. We can make everything measurable in the end. So the SmartLane system is always delivers results on a very reliable basis. So this is our founding team. So this is Matthias, our CTO, Monia, and me here. We are located in Munich. So to get a little bit into our story, we originated at Technische Universität München, TU Munich. We were deeply into research in traffic engineering, Matthias and me, where we worked with geospatial data, with vehicles on the road, optimizing things on the road, optimizing signal light plannings, processing deeply or heavily vehicle information on high sampling rates to identify effects on efficiency, on safety and traffic. And these algorithms that we started developing in research.
Florian, this is Juven here. Sorry to interrupt. You'll have 1 minute to wrap up the presentation.
Okay, thank you. I will be finished very quickly. This is the last slide. So yeah, this is our history from TU Munich. Then we got an assist grant from the Federal Ministry of Economics in Germany, and then we went to Werk 1 here in Munich, on the east side of Munich. We moved to the west side in a bigger office right now. And last year we were funded by Frank Thelen, who's an investor right now. Maybe you know him from the Höhle der Löwen here in Germany, famous TV show Shark Tank, as you may know, in India or in the English-speaking countries. Yeah, thank you very much. Feel free to ask questions. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Florian, for sharing your presentation and sharing your story with us. I'd also like to invite Arunima and Navratna to switch on their audio and videos, and also Swapnil. So thank you, Arunima, thank you, Navratna, for taking out time. Just to quickly introduce Arunima, Arunima Singh, she works at Yunus Social Business, and she actively supports sustainable social business initiatives. I think she can also, and she has vast experience across many countries. She can point out briefly in the opening remarks. And Navratna, thank you to you too. He's head of the startups segment at NASSCOM Center for Excellence for AI and IoT. I thank you both for taking out time. And with that, I would like to also, so this conversation, we have it very informal because we have a short time and an online format. So with the panel discussion, I'd like to take a first question with Swapnil. Maybe if you can quickly point out, so at least from my point of view, I think mobility defines the quality of life, and it has changed in last few months. So what has been your experience? How do you think it's been changing? And how do you think it would go ahead in the next few months?
Yeah, I think the biggest change has been from people going back from the shared mobility to a more of a person mobility space there, obviously for reasons of safety as well as availability on the road. Like there's just too little traffic on the road, so now people are more comfortable owning an own vehicle. So that I think that's a big change which we have seen. It's very difficult to say that whether this will stay, whether more and more people will continue to work from home and this sort of a way of life will continue, or we may say things going back to the previous era and sort of us going back to in the shared mobility space. I think that is one big thing which is changed in the past 6 months, and it's changed very fast.
Thanks a lot, Swapnil. So because we have also seen in the last few months, I think technology is playing such a big role. And when we talk about technology, AI is, I think, the key driver. To take it to Florian, how do you see the logistics sector realigning in the few months, and what's been the role of AI to say in a high-level language?
Yeah, it's kind of a double-sided sword, or it has two sides currently with the logistics sector here in Germany. So some of the logistics companies or transport companies doing logistics on the road, maybe closed their business temporarily, as also with some of our customers. They are getting up again right now, but they needed to close because there was no transport to be done. For example, for the supply chain of restaurants or something in the beginning as a lockdown. Others need to take over things, so they got more work than beforehand to do, and this leads to a high volatility in the market. Some need to raise scale at once to dimensions they never thought of. Others got down very, very fast. And you always have the problem with people being in quarantine or being at home, not available. So logistics in Germany is a very people-oriented business as well. Some things did not work very well. So and the reliability was missing within the last few months maybe. And that's something be addressed with our solution so that AI can cope with. So software is not getting ill somehow. Software will be working from wherever our services will be available from wherever you are somehow, and we are able to adapt to the different needs. So if you're going up, if you're going down in a very fast manner. So it's possible with our software to adapt the business of our customers very fast. Oh, we need more trucks, we need fewer trucks based on a customer that breaks away or something. And that's something we take into account and use it for daily operations of our customers, as well as in the long term to realize a better planning for our customers and all the companies. And I think that all the customers try to more or less get more reliable services, depending on or not depending on whether they are serviced by people or by software, but they want to rely on the things they do, and with software they have a better status on that in combination with the people using it, I think.
Thanks a lot, Florian. Especially in my personal experience, I've seen a lot of startups struggling. I think it's been an observation many of you would have found out. And when we talk about startups, I think the ecosystem plays an important role, or how they are being handheld plays an important role. And that's where our next two panelists come in. I would like to invite Arunima to quickly give your introduction, and then also take up this question that where do you see the role of ecosystem in handling or holding hands of startups in the current time?
Cool. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jivan, for inviting me. And briefly, my name is Arunima Singh. I work with Social Business. We at our core are a corporate social innovation and impact investment fund co-founded by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus, with a big intent of solving global social problems by businesses. And I think one of the reasons that Jivan invited me onto this particular call is because a lot of our work is in setting up corporate and startup and social entrepreneur collaborations to really solve the human-centric problems of the world today and see how can we really leave a lasting impact. And I did warn Jivan, I will go on a rant on the impact side, so I can try and keep it short. But to talk about what have the past few months been because of the crisis, the global crisis that we've been going, I would let Navratan talk around the collaborations on, let's say, Germany and India ecosystem collaborations from his extensive experience. And maybe I can briefly talk about how have we managed to gather forces to really support entrepreneurs through the stage that we're going through. And from our perspective, we've always been big fans of ecosystem collaborations. In past, I have had the opportunity to gate crash even Swapnil's office once with our entrepreneurs from the MEN program. And we've really seen the potential of the collaboration opportunities that different ecosystems offer. But as COVID crisis started maturing and we realized the potential of negative impact it might have, we realized ecosystems weren't just restricted to 2 or 3 countries. We were looking for our perspective. We were looking at the entire impact space. So we were trying to look at entrepreneurship space as an ecosystem. And for us, it was really a stressful time to see that not just would these entrepreneurs not be able to survive the 6 to 10 months of the crisis, but the impact would be much more long lasting for impact as a space. So we've had the chance to gather forces, and it's incredible. I would encourage you to read more about it on our website. We've had the opportunity to gather forces to set up the COVID Response Alliance. The Alliance has more than 50 partners from corporate, private sector, and third sector. So we've got SAPs and IKEAs of the world. We have investment funds like ourselves, Acumens of Shokas. We've got governments stepping in to really set up an alliance to make sure that entrepreneurs, specifically in countries where the state will not be able to support private sector, these entrepreneurs survive the crisis. The alliance on its own has managed to raise, if I have my numbers right, around $75 million to look at rapid action responses to make sure that entrepreneurs have support, but they're also looking at non-financial support to make sure that entrepreneurs have some hand-holding. So in response to your question, Juman, that this is like we've really taken the opportunity of COVID to build alliances and unlikely allies to make sure that people can get together to ensure the sector doesn't suffer. Otherwise, all the years of work into setting up ecosystems and setting up entrepreneurship ecosystems that are much more advanced would be quite redundant if we don't gather forces in the initial and the early post-COVID times.
Thanks a lot, Arunima. We'll also come to the point of impact in a couple of minutes. Over to you, Navratna. Maybe if you can also quickly introduce yourself and give your perspective on how the ecosystem is playing a role in the current time.
So DASCOM is the largest tech center that we have for startup and innovators, and it's a 30-year plus old association of all IT companies. Last 6-7 years, we've been sort of under the public-private partnership with the governments and the industry, helping any innovator in the country and outside the boundary of the country. Our job, since we don't take any equity, our role is to help and grow every startup in the domain of deep tech. My personal interest is, of course, in the startups. What we try to do is not only handhold them, but in the COVID situation that we are in, we also do a walking stick, which means that if somebody is limping and is unable to walk, let him get a walking stick. And the walking stick, as I said, since we don't fund, we will connect him to funders, investors, working capital areas. People who have blocked their orders and not given advances will probably get a result. As well as the areas that we generally work are the B2Bs. And the B2B areas, the biggest hand-holding or support we can do is get them the first few 5, 6, 7 projects or POCs. If they're doing well in those areas, I think they will work by themselves, they will run by themselves. And that is a very critical support we are, as an ecosystem player, helping with that. We also, of course, have a lab, which has test measurement equipment, wherein not only from India, but we are welcoming, in fact, 10% or 15% of our seats are reserved for soft landing of any startup across the world to come over here and develop the Indian market to access. And one of the collaborations that we do is between startups. So if we look at the Smart Florian and the Dreamy Swapnil, Swapnil means a guy who dreams. I don't know where Swapnil was born, but I doubt whether he was born in Germany, because he's brought a quality into the country which has seen probably the most price-sensitive market, especially after the Chinese flooded into this market. And they make us proud. In fact, if you can quote anybody without paying me a royalty, my grandfather used to say, an expensive buyer cries once, but a cheap buyer cries every day. And this is what Swapnil, I think, you could use into your marketing punchline if you like to, but I have a strong feeling that when we bring in these ecosystem players, these startups which look at quality product, which look for long-lasting products, which will have solutions which look into what the user wants, I think they can run by themselves. We don't have to actually engage them very, very deeply. But yes, because the guys that we are backed by, the industry guys from the Microsoft, Googles of the world to the Infosys and the Wipros of the country, we have that kind of access to whether technical business or investment to many of these guys who bring a big value to all the startups that we can have.
Thanks a lot, Navratna, for your remarks. Because we are talking about success, I mean, the topic today focuses on success. So maybe over to you, Florian and Swapnil, what does success really mean for you in the current time? Or how are you trying to measure it in the next few months? Maybe in the order of Florian and then Swapnil.
Okay, yeah. So success has two sides, maybe the business and kind of the personal side for me. So on the business side, of course, we are trying to make our customers that have gone down temporarily to grow again using our software to make them maybe bigger than before. With the others, of course, we're trying to focus on certain groups of customers, certain segments. The LTL, less than transport, as we call it in Germany, Stückgut logistics companies, which are not transporting parcels, but bigger ones on pallets, transports, and so on. And we make them big again. On a personal side and on a side concerning our employees, of course, this whole home office situation and non-personal situation, also working with customers, was very difficult somehow. And we are trying to get our employees motivated again. I think they are right now since we got back into the office and work together as a team.
Thanks a lot, Florian. Maybe Swapnil, if you can give your perspective.
I think for us, the next 8 months is just about scaling up, how well we are able to scale up what we have built and take it to multiple markets. That's the real test for us, and especially in these times when nothing is predictable, anything can go wrong. How do we stay strong and are able to meet our targets about scaling up is going to be an interesting thing for the next, and that's really what would define the success for us as a startup.
Thanks, Swapnil. From my side, one of the key things which at least I've observed is that many of the businesses or manufacturing sectors, for example, realigning towards solving the current problem or towards healthcare, or if I put it naively, then more towards an impact. And that's where, Arunima, maybe if you can give your thoughts about how has the word impact really shaped or changed, the definition of impact changed in the last few months, or what do you think? Is it really solving the purpose?
So, Jivan, is this when I can go on my rant about impact? No, I wouldn't. But well, there are two aspects to it. I think one of the things that we've seen as an upcoming trend, and there are plenty of studies by the people who do enjoy doing these studies, BCGs and McKinseys of the world, of how big companies, corporates, partners are realizing that impact is no longer reserved only to corporate social responsibility, but looking at impacting the triple bottom line with your business, products, and services is a good way of doing business. And a lot of the conversations that we look at and the trends that are happening, a lot of the conversations are around resilient and shorter supply chains, looking at your supply chains and making sure how are you building capacities that are not just extracting resources, but also are you giving in resources to your supply chain. And the way corporates have been looking at it in past is, of course, as a one-way street. But with COVID, they've had realizations around the fact that if you aren't really looking after things that are building your products, then maybe it is time that you want to build capacities there and make them more resilient. We've had cases around where super high-end luxury industries haven't been able to produce because, let's say, in India, migrant workers did go back home. And if you haven't looked at the capacities of what your people are doing and do they have resources to survive the crisis or not, your final end product was suffering. And it's super interesting because there's so many conversations that are happening on very many different levels, on different platforms, to really get different stakeholders involved, to say who can play what part so that if there is a similar crisis coming forward, how do we want to not just protect our people who are in our portfolio, but also people who might be at one point of time the customers or the bigger 80% of the clientele. And the conversations are getting stronger and stronger with the green recovery and building back better. It's super cool to see what all is happening on the corporate side for them to be more accountable, not just for the products that they create, but really looking at human centricity at its core, not just within the supply chain, but within the companies and employees and also as a product.
Thanks a lot, Arunima. Swapnil, there's a question for you. Why is Ather only able to give a 3-year warranty when German EVs are giving 8 to 10 years warranty on EV? So maybe if you can share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think so. There are two aspects to it. First one is the size of the battery itself. In a two-wheeler, the battery is actually quite smaller compared to a four-wheeler. So you see a lot more stress on a two-wheeler battery than a than a four-wheeler battery. If you have a bigger battery, you see lesser stress on the battery in your driving conditions. Second is also Indian driving conditions in itself. I mean, the conditions, especially something like a temperature conditions in India are really much on the higher side as compared to any other European city. So and high temperatures are not great for battery. So that's another reason why the warranty is not same as at what it would be in a European nation.
Thanks a lot, Swapnil. I'll take up the last question and then we'll have the final remarks from all of you. The question is to Florian and Swapnil because the event also focuses on Germany, bringing German-Indian businesses together. What do you think the vice versa market? So Florian, for you, what do you think about the Indian market? And Swapnil, for you, about the German market?
So should I start? Okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I think the Indian market is I don't know the Indian market very well. So I only can see it from a perspective when I was working in research years ago, planning traffic for simulating traffic in Germany and India. It's very different. What's happening there? In Germany, you often could not imagine what happens there or what was needed to offer a correct simulation of Indian traffic somehow. And maybe I think that's also a point when it comes to logistics itself and traffic generated by logistics companies to optimize it. I think it's kind of difficult, but I think that's a very a problem that we'd like to adapt to anticipate, a challenge that we'd like to accept maybe in the future when going to international markets. I think because with software we are able to handle these things. I think. And that's the thing on the Indian market as far as I can see it. So from a software perspective, from our software, we are able to, we are country or a location agnostic. We can operate wherever we are, where we can get data from, where we have real-time traffic data available and map data available, we can optimize. And that's the only challenge. On this side, from a content perspective of data content, we will see which market will be next. Maybe India, I don't know.
Thanks a lot, Florian. Swapnil, if you can give quick point on that. We are a bit short of time.
I think for us, obviously, it's like if you've launched a product in India, it's always easier to launch in any other country in the world. You face a lot of challenges in the developing for India, but at the same time, obviously, it's a lot easier to take this same product into the European market, and that's a place which is really interesting for us. Again, something which values the quality of a product, and our product is also very well suited for a European condition. So from that perspective, we're quite excited, and probably soon we would start getting into the European markets as well.
Thanks a lot, Swapnil. So maybe we can have very short remarks from all of you, starting with Navratna, if you can go first, then Arunima, then Swapnil, and then Florian.
So we are here for any startup, connecting them to the industry because we have to adopt your solutions, to the government because specifically in the smart logistics area, there's a lot of policy influences that one has to do. So that's also equally important. Anything from the academic. So we join all these hands together, including the funding guys, to make sure that yes, the startups grow and the ecosystem develops, gains from them.
Thanks, Navratna. Arunima, if you can go next.
I keep it really short and say ditto to whatever Navratna said, that in any way that we can support you, we'll be super happy to. From our experience, we'll be happy to see how we can look at corporates who would be willing to support entrepreneurs in Germany or in India and do what it takes to make sure that we come out stronger and better out of the crisis and maybe build more capacities and build more ecosystems together.
Thanks, Arunima. Swapnil, if you can go next.
I think Well, for me, I would rather say that this is an interesting conversation. Good to hear from different parts of the world on what's really happening, and always excited to connect with different people working in different industries, which are at least loosely coupled to what we are doing.
Thanks, Swapnil. Florian? Florian, you're muted.
Okay, maybe it's better right now. So
yes,
thanks for having me, of course. And yeah, as just to the audience, maybe if you're interested in using our software or getting in contact with us, don't hesitate to write an email or something. Presentations will be shared later on, and I was happy to present SmartLane here. Thank you very much.
Thank you all of you for presenting your views and also giving your thoughts on different questions. So we are a bit delayed in the time. I'll quickly go through our next slides. So if any of you is interested in our upcoming events, please visit the German Indian Forum website. You can check. You can also find on Facebook or LinkedIn. Our next event is with His Excellency Mr. Mohit Yadav. He's the Consul General of India for the Munich Consulate, and he will be taking up the points on India's response to COVID-19 and what are the new opportunities. So please register for the event. This whole event series is also supported by MathWorks. And with that, we'll also have an investor panel session in September. We are still planning the final dates, and also one-to-one meeting sessions with the selected startups. So do apply, and we'll keep you updated on that. Thank you again to the entire team for putting this wonderful event series together, right from Siddharth to Shailesh to Gaurav. Shailesh and Gaurav, you might have heard in between. But thanks a lot to the whole team, and thank you to you all for joining. With that, we are at the end of the event, and wish you a nice day ahead, and take care, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.